Welcome to the Westcote Crochet channel and welcome to this adorable little rainbow vest. If you like this one, send that message to YouTube and tap the thumbs up button. For future projects, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I try and post a sneaky peek at upcoming tutorials. Any yarn recommending a 4mm hook will create a similar result. I used a 5mm for the vest and a smaller hook to help with the seam stitches. I also used a tape measure and a yarn needle to weave in all of the many ends. Working with a 5mm hook, I'm going to start on the back panel. The back panel is going to work across from where I want my top to sit on both shoulders, so in between those 2 points. For me, that's going to be 33 centimetres roughly. I need my chain to be a multiple of 6 plus 1. I'm going to chain 55. I have my chain of 55. I'm going to work a standing double crochet into the first stitch, the back bump of. If you don't want to work the standing double, I'm going to show you how to in a minute, but if you don't want to, chain another 2, and the first 3 chains is then your first double crochet. But for me, standing double, so I'm going to put my loop the height of a double. Because I'm starting from a chain row, I'm just going to give it a twist, and then I'm going to hold on to my loop and wrap the loop around my hook, in through the stitch, pull back a loop. So I've got 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that's first stitch for me. As I say, chain 2, and your first 3 chains then are your first double crochet. Then I'm going to skip 2 chains into the third one along, make another double crochet, so yarn over, pull through a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Then I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to work another double crochet into that same stitch. Chain 1, another double into the same stitch, chain 1, and a final double into the same stitch. So I have 4 double crochets with chain 1 in between to separate them, and that's my shell. So I'm going to skip another 2 and do a double crochet into the next stitch, skip 2, and then work a shell into the next stitch. So 4 doubles separated by a chain 1. Skip 2, 1 double crochet into the third one, skip 2 and shell, and so on for the whole row. So skip 2, double crochet, skip 2, shell, skip 2, double crochet, skip 2, shell, all the way to the end where you'll end with a double crochet. At the end of row 1 I have 9 little shells and 10 little posts in between. I'm going to turn it into row 2. If you're not working standing double, chain 3, and that's your first double crochet. I'm going to work the standing double. I don't need to twist this time because I've already twisted because I've changed direction. So wrap the loop around my hook, keeping hold of the loop, in through the stitch, pull through a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So as I say, or chain 3. Now into the middle of the next shell, so I've got 1, 2, 3 spaces. Into space number 2, I'm going to work another shell. So 4 double crochets, chain 1 in between. So that's the next shell. Around this post, I'm going to work a front post double crochet. So yarn over for the double, and instead of going on top of the stitch, I'm going around the post, pushing the post forward. one. Then I'm going into the middle of the next shell, and I'm going to work another shell. And try to. That's 4. Next post, same again, double crochet around the post, pushing it forward. Middle of the next shell, another front post, double crochet, another shell, front post, all the way to the end. At the end of row 2, I finished up with a double crochet on top of the one from the row before. Row 3, I turn and work a standing double or chain 3. Again, a shell in the centre of the shell from the row before. So 4 double crochets with chain 1 in between. And then I arrive at the post. Now before I worked a front post and pushed the post forward, but now that I'm on the back of my work, this is the back, this is the front where the posts stick forward, I want the post to stay forward. So I need to go at it from the other direction. So I come at it from this way and I push it back for a back post, double crochet. So as you can see now on the other side, it's still facing forwards. From here, shell in the centre of the next one. And then another back post, double crochet, so shove it back and work around. And that's the row for row 3. So here at the end of row 3, again, I double crocheted into the top of my last double crochet. If you chain 3, then it's the 3rd chain, that's the top of your double crochet replacement. So I'm flat on the back and I'm all ridged on the front in between the shells. I'm going to work another, how many have I done? 4 rows. I'm going to work another 4 rows, just doing the same thing again as the last 2 rows. So on this row I will do the shell and push the post forward each time. On the back I'll come back and I'll push the post backwards. So if I'm on the front, I'm doing a front post double crochet. If I'm working the back, I'm working a back post double crochet. I want to make sure that these posts are pushed forward to the front of my work each time. So as I say, I'm going to work another 4 rows, and that's going to take me to my underarm point where I'm going to start tapering out. I'll be back then. I'm back, I've worked my 7 rows, and it's time to start tapering for the underarm section. This is the top of where the shoulders are, so I'm working downwards. I'm going to taper out to the underarm section. So for me, starting from row 8, I'm going to work my standing double, or you can chain 3 into the top of the first stitch as normal. Then I'm going to make an increase. I'm going to put a second stitch in that same stitch, and from there I'm back to the regular pattern: shell, front post or back post depending which side you're on, shell, post, all the way to the end where I'll put 2 stitches in that final stitch again. So that's the end of the first increase row. 2 stitches at the start, 2 stitches at the end. Turning to work the next row. Start with my first stitch in the first stitch, so chain 3 or a standing double. And then I'm technically working a shell or a part of the shell. So I'm going to chain one, put another stitch in this same stitch. And then I'm going to work around the post, be it front or back, depending on which direction you're now facing. So you may have started your increases in a different row. So that is now the post after the shell. And then we've just got the extra stitch on the end there. So now I've got part of a shell and then the next post. So two of the shell, post. And then I go back to the next shell and work across as normal. I'll meet you at the other end to close off this row. Here at the end, I've just worked my last shell, or the full shell, I should say. I'm going to work in my case it's a back post, around the penultimate post. And then I'm going to put one stitch into the last stitch on top of. I'm going to chain one and put a second stitch into the top of that stitch. And there's my increase for that row. So if you see, I'll just stretch that out if you can see, I've gone from 1 to 2 to 3 at the start. So next I'm going to increase to 4. So turning around, either chain 3 or work a standing double in top of the stitch there. Just grab some yarn, sorry. So there's number 1. I'm going to chain 1 because I'm on a shell now, trying to increase the shell. I haven't got my center shell yet, so I'm just one space off having the center shell. So I'm still working into this same stitch for now. So I'm going to put my second stitch into the same stitch. I'm going to chain 1 and I'm going to put the third stitch into the same stitch. Then I'm going to work around my post. For me, on this side, it's going to be a front post. And then I'm back to normal. Shell, post, shell, post. I'll meet you at the other end. Here at the other end, I've just finished my last shell again. I'm going to work my post. So whichever you're doing, front or back. I'm going to go to the last stitch. Double crochet on top of there. Chain 1. Double crochet top of the same stitch. Chain 1. Double crochet, same stitch. And that's that one. So I've gone from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 and then the shell. Next round, or next row, I keep saying round, I don't know why. I can now work a full shell. So I'm going to start with my standing double, or you'll be chaining 3, into the top of the stitch to start with, to the top of stitch number 1. And then I'm going to work 3 more doubles, but I'm going to put them into this space, because if you think about the chain, with the space we're working into normally, it's the center one. So you miss one and you work into the next one. So the same situation applies. I've got semi shell, I'm missing this one, I'm working into this one, which would be the center one if I had a full shell. So I've chained 1 and I'm going to double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, and the last one makes up the full shell. So if you chain 3 to start, you need to chain an extra 1 before you work your next double crochet in the space. So then I'm going back to the post. So I'm back post in this instance. And then I'm shells as normal again. I'll meet you at the other end. Here at the end, to mirror what I did at the other end, I've just worked my penultimate shell in this instance, because I've got a full shell to work at the end. So I go around the post as normal. I'm going to work 3 double crochets from my shell into the space, chain 1 in between, and to match what I did at the beginning, I'm going to work my last one into the top of my stitch there. So that's the full shell, bar the post that we started with way back at the beginning. So the last round for an increase, turning, standing double in the first stitch or chain 3, and now I'm back to regular post. So that's my post, and then I work my shell. And this is, as you remember, the way we started, right back on row 1. So again, work all the way across. At the end, your last shell goes in the middle of your last shell, and then a double crochet post to end into the last stitch. So here at the end again, I've just worked my last shell, and I'm going to put my post into the last double crochet stitch at the end of this row. I'm going to work another 5 rows of increases to get an extra shell, so I'll be another shell width on either side. The idea is that this section now has to keep expanding outwards until I get to half the circumference of my body, so all the way around my body divided by 2, the widest part. This is what this needs to measure, that half measurement. So keep doing that. I've put a timestamp in the description box to go back to the first row of increase, which was 5 rows up, and then just keep working the increase. If you need to do 2, 3, 4, however many to get the width that you need, just keep going. So for me, I'm just going to do 1 more, so 5 more rows. I'm actually going to change colours because I'm going to change colours 6 times. My entire top is going to be 30 rows because I've just measured where I want it to go on myself. Then I measure part of the work and just count how many rows it's going to take to get to the measurement that I need. So for me, 30 rows, I'm going to do 6 colour changes. So that's 24 rows in white. So I've just worked 12. I'm going to work 6 colour changes and then 12 rows in the white to finish off. So I'll just show you how I change colour before I start again doing my next set of decreases. So I've just finished the full stitch on this last stitch, but to change colour, what I would do is prepare to finish the last stitch, to work the last stitch, pull up my loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops and then stop there. And I'll grab my second colour and pull through the last loop in the new colour. At this point I just leave these loose and I can cut the white off, but just leave the 2 ends loose. I don't like to tighten them up or tie them off at this point because what I often find is I end up tying them too tight and then I can't work into the stitch on the return journey. So I'm just going to leave them loose for now, and when I've gone all the way across and all the way back, then I'll tie the 2 together and weave them in. So for now it's just business as usual. I start with my increase row, so I'd work 2 into this first stitch, or you'll chain 3, and as I say, check back in the description box for the timestamp to go back and explain how you start working the extra shells and work your increases. So it's going to be the same thing each time. I'm just changing colour, and I'm going to change colour every row, and I'll do the exact same thing. So the last stitch that I work on each row, I work all but pulling through the last 2 loops, and my last loop is pulled through in a new colour, and then I carry on as normal. I'm back. I've worked all my colour changes and my increases and finished off in the white. So as I've gone back to the white, I'm back to post shell, post shell, post shell, the whole way across, just making straight sides. So if, like me, you've changed colour, I've just tied all my ends together here. So wherever I've got two ends, I've just tied them off to make sure they're extra secure. And here I've already weaved them in. So you might want to weave them in as you go along, otherwise you're going to have loads of ends to weave in at the end, which might drive you a little nuts. Unless you really love weaving in ends, in which case you can probably hire yourself out by the hour. So yeah, I've just as I've finished a panel, I've weaved in the ends along one side and then done a few more rows, then weaving the ends on the other side, just so that I've not got loads of ends just to weave in all at once. So I've got a completed back panel, and I've also completed two front panels. So this is the wrong side out. This is the wrong side. So the back is now facing the back. So my front panels are exactly the same thing, except I've only increased on one side. The top section is just the distance between my neck and my shoulder, which is typically about a third of the back panel. So you've got a third left open for your neck. And I've just, as I say, increased down one side and left the other side perfectly straight. Same again on the other side, just making sure that you do the opposite side, the other side straight. You have the option to increase on both sides, which would create this kind of a look, and they'd meet in the centre. So it's up to you, a few options. I've just gone straight down for the centre section. I'm just going to join the shoulders and a little bit of the sides. When I weaved my ends in, when I weaved the ends in, I left the purple end free because I'm going to actually attach my purple, because that's where my extension stopped. After the blue row, I went back to post shell. So I'm actually going to start joining my sides from the purple section, but there's just the one stitch to join, so I've just left the end loose there on both sides so that I can just join with that, kind of crudely, but I'm just going to stitch it through and tie it off. So, and then I'll do a little bit of join on the white as well. I'm going to start with the shoulders, back in a sec. Okay, so to join the shoulders, as I say, I've got my front panel here. It's a third the width of the back panel where I started at the top. That's typically how it works, dimension wise. So I've got 3 shells. So I've got 3 shells for one corner, one shoulder, 3 shells for the centre, 3 shells for the other side. So I've got my back panel facing upwards with the ridges on top. I'm going to place my front panel, ridges face down, so the ridges are touching each other. And I'm going to go in through the very corner stitch in both instances. So I've just got to find the bottom, so that's the shell, so it's 2 stitches along, and the third one. So if you remember, to start with, I work the post, 2 stitches and then a shell, so I just work backwards, shell, 2 chains, and the next one then is my first stitch, because it obviously looks a bit collapsed and messy on that side. So make a slip knot on with that, pull it through and chain 1 to secure. At this stage I'm actually going to work in my tail ends as I go along. Okay, so I'm going to pick up one side, stitch from one side, stitch from the other side, just 1 loop is fine, and single crochet. Again, next one along, you can see for the tail end, sorry, just 1 loop from one side, 1 loop from the other side, which is the chain 2 space. Whoops, won't go on. Oh, yeah. And single crochet. and that's the seam. So next one, single crochet. And here I come to the space where I've made my first shell. I'm actually just going to go in through that whole thing. Same again on the other side, and single crochet. So that's the same thing all the way across now. So every time you reach to a shell spot, just go through the whole stitch, just to make sure that it's good and secured on both sides. And then just one loop for every other stitch. For the last stitch on the seam on the shoulder, I've just gone through both loops at the top of each post, just joining post to post, so just to make sure it's nice and secure. So chain one, and I can cut and do the same on the other side, on the other shoulder. And then I have all seamed up. So to join the sides, I've still got ridge facing ridge, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to join from my purple row because that's where I stopped tapering. All of this stays open, and I'm actually just going to use the purple tail end just to join these two stitches together. So I've actually gone for a smaller hook just to make it easier. This is 2.75, doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to feed it through the stitches, my purple ones on both sides. Whoops, if I can get through. And I'm going to pull this tail end through to that point and then pull through a loop. That's one half of it joined. I'm going to do the same thing again. Obviously, if you leave a longer tail end, you've got a little bit more to play with, but I didn't do that. But this is fine. So again, pull it through. To there. And pull through again. And it's just basically a couple of crude little knots to join the collar, because there's no point joining an extra fresh piece of yarn just for that one little stitch on each collar. I just do that with each yarn end, tail end the whole way. But as I say, for me, just the purple. And now onto the white. So on the white, I've hooked through both stitches on both sides. I'm using the smaller hook so it's easier to poke through the sides of the stitches. Doesn't matter. That's just what I've opted for. So through both sides, on with a slip knot. Pull that through, chain one to secure, and I'm going to just stitch, well, single crochet down the sides of these double crochet stitches. So I'm going to aim for 2 in each. So there's the join. Here's the first stitch. Just poke through any way you can and single crochet. And go for a second. Same stitch somewhere else down the row. So I mean, aim for like middle and end, and then you've got 2 in each. Next one, and just space them out nice and neatly. So yeah, there's no nice stitches to go into, so you just got to sort of blaze your trail. And I'm only going to seam up for a little way. I'm not going to go right down to the end. So I think I've gone on the other side about to here. So same thing the whole way for as long as you want to seam it up for. And when you're at the end of where you want to be, chain one and cut, and do the same on the other side. All seamed up, I'm away to weave in even more ends, and I'm done. If you do all of that, you could have one of these. Thank you so much to all who've subscribed so far to the channel. Thank you for the lovely comments, they are really, really appreciated. And finally, thank you as always for watching today.